How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Now, this is exciting because the last time you were here, you came in and you were just the actor, Paul Scheer. And I'll tell you one thing. We're in Los Angeles. No offense. You throw a rock and you hit two actors.
Rotten.
Exactly. We are all full up with actors here. It is like, but now you come back, author Paul Scheer. It's pretty amazing.
I am excited to be now an author, and
Yes.
it feels like you're right. It elevates you in the world. You've put something down on paper, and it is out, or it's not out yet, but it will be out.
When is your book is called?
Joyful Recollections of Trauma.
Yes.
It comes out on May 21st, but that should be no reason why you shouldn't order it right this second, because you can get it by the time you order it. It'll be there on Tuesday. It'll be perfect.
It's going to show up, and it's going to be, the box will show up. Hopefully, if you order it, this is what I tell everybody. When I order things, I order everything from Amazon, and I ask them, please put it in the biggest possible box, because I hate the environment.
Yes. And don't recycle that box. Make sure I throw that box away.
I hate small businesses. So I say, it's always Amazon for me.
You are wearing a full Amazon outfit right now.
I love it. I dress like a delivery guy. It's kind of like, it's kind of my thing.
Do you think, Tom, when you see someone approaching your house in a Prius, and then they open the trunk and they're bringing an Amazon package to your door, you're like, what's gone on here? What has happened to the Amazon fleet that it seems like I am getting my packages delivered by a DoorDash person?
Just by a dude. It's just kind of like, it feels like every day with these companies, it's, guys, all hands on deck today. If you know anyone with a car, tell him to come on down.
You know your friend Steve?
Yeah.
The one with the big truck? Can you ask him if he could come? Can you borrow that big truck?
Yeah. Please have Steve come down. He can, does he have a phone with a Maps app on it? Like,
we can send him the addresses. All he's got to do is just follow it. Follow it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I like a pre-order because, as a matter of fact, yesterday, got home, saw a box. Didn't know what that box was. Cut it open. Inside, my 4K restored, mastered, talking head, Stop Making Sense Blu-ray that I ordered months ago. When I ordered it, I was like, oh, I'm not going to get this for so long. I can't wait to watch it. And then when it came, what a surprise. What a wonderful surprise.
Pre-orders are a treat. First of all, they help the artist.
Yes.
And also, I want to say this. I was joking about the Amazon thing. One of the things I'm most proud of in this life, it's actually making me sad to say this out loud, that this is one of my most proud things. No, it's something I was very happy with.
Are we going to reveal that you have an 11-year-old daughter?
Just like, no, that's the trick. I don't. I only have a son that I've ignored. When I wrote my book a couple of years ago, It Never Ends, the amount of small independent bookstores that were ordering it was unusually high for what the ratio was.
Yes.
I was very happy. The listeners of the show supported local businesses, supported small bookstores, and that was very heartening to me.
I am a big fan of this. And as a matter of fact, what I recommend to some people, if they don't want to do the research, if you don't know the bookstores in your area, Bookshop is a website that you can order just like the Amazon, but it does support independent bookstores. And audiobook-wise, Libro.fm is Audible, but again, supports local independent booksellers. So those are my two. I'm like, they work exactly the same as Audible and Amazon, but the money goes to independent sellers. And you can also pick which seller you want. There's a lot of options there. I mean, you can also just go to your local store, but if you want the convenience of it.
Yes. If you're looking to have it brought to your doorstep,
yes,
that's the way to go. And take that. That's not the book. What is that?
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been the bane of my existence,
No.
Tom. So if you type in Paul Scheer book to Amazon, you will see dozens of AI, dozens of AI versions. Please, there's many. Please go back because you'll see if you can just go to that. If maybe it's not up, but there are hilarious versions. And you know what? They all sell for about $12, and I bought one. And I maybe shouldn't be supporting this AI generated copycat writing, but the one that I have is me. My shirt is opened. I look like I'm on the cover of a romance novel, and and it is the biography of a Hollywood icon, and is what it's called. And it's obviously trying to change a Wikipedia or whatever they're finding. So I'm good friends with Rob Hubel. There's another one. Yeah, there's plenty of them.
Early life and background.
A great title, right? Catchy.
Really just really intriguing.
And so they have to try to make it unique so it's not directly just stolen from the internet. So my friend's name is Rob, and they keep on changing his name to alternatives of rob because they think it's a verb, like he robbed a store.
Yeah, okay.
So I go, when Paul met Steele Hubel, when Paul and Loot Hubel go together.
Loot Hubel is actually a pretty good name.
A good name. So there are plenty of these AI generated books. It's not mine. Mine is joyful recollections of trauma, not the life and times of Hollywood actors.
Put the proper cover up, please, if we could see. It's not that one. Look at these. I think that was Rob Schraub on the cover of that one. Like that was not even you.
That was the making of Scud the Disposable Assassin.
Yeah.
That's the actual cover. There it is.
It's a really great cover.
Thank you so much. And I look to you, and we talked about this a lot in going into writing a book like this, because I loved your book, and I was very honored to be a person who got to read it before the general public, because being part of Hollywood, you get these kind of perks. These are the things
people, they don't realize out here.
Yeah, this is
you go to a restaurant. I go to McDonald's or a hot dog, and they make it.
They do it without any problem. Now, as a matter of fact, you think you're listening to this live. I've already heard this. I've already heard it. This is the way that
this
goes.
happened.
This
we're home right now.
And your book, to me, I was sitting there and I was reading it, and one way it really brought me close to you, somebody that I feel like I know, but at the same time I'm like, this is so Tom, but at the same time I'm learning a lot, and I was surprised. You brought me in, and I used that book. There's a handful of books, and I think often of the people that I knew, because I'm like, oh, this is interesting. How do I navigate this? Because if I read a book about Barbra Streisand, which I like, 40 hours long, 1,000 pages deep.
Yes, yeah.
I can't say, oh, I don't know. I didn't know that about Barbra. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't know everything about Barbra. So anyway, you were a great inspiration. Your book is fantastic.
Well, that's very sweet of you to say. I will say your book, you did literally what you and I can say it's a tightrope walk. It's like a tightrope.
Yeah.
On a tightrope.
Yes.
Because you're trying to, this is a metaphor city here. The target is so, threading the needle is so hard to make a thing that's, you're being honest.
Yes.
You're telling your truth, but you're doing it in a way where you're being entertaining. You don't want it to be just like nothing but a bummer.
Yeah.
But you also don't want it to be meaningless or fluffy and light, which, look, those books have their place too. But that when I was doing mine, I knew I got to go all the way in on it. And knowing some of your story, I was just like, well, first of all, when I saw the title of the book, I was like, well, Paul's all in on this one. Paul did not hold back. First time I heard the title, I was like, Paul didn't just put a book of 12 witty essays together.
It's tricky because it's not the book that I think I intended on writing, but I also approached it, and I don't know how you approached it, but I approached it in a way where I took the pressure off. I've talked to a lot of people who go off and sell a book as if it's an easy endeavor.
Ooh,
it's not. And I didn't want to go and sell a book and feel like, oh no, now I got to write it.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to understand what I was writing.
Yes.
And so I sat down and I started writing these stories because they were inspired by like these things I would talk about on how did this get made. And I'd watch Jason Mantzoukas and June, my wife, just like look at me like, whoa, that's perfect. Like my grandmother would tell me this story about a butcher who kidnapped children. And if you open the door when no one was home, this butcher would kidnap a child and then grind him up into chopped meat. Okay. And then the way he was caught was one mom went to the butcher store. She bought a pound of chopped meat. She started making burgers for dinner. Yeah. And as she was making the chopped meat burger, the burger looked up at her and said, "Mommy." And then the mom caught the butcher.
Yeah. That's look, I'm not here to judge your grandmother, but I don't know if that happened.
Look, I think there's probably a strong basis in truth because we've heard a lot about this sentient meat, you know.
Sure,
this is
of course,
this is back before they had, you know, they were using hormones and stuff. It was a different thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and I would tell these stories and I was like, oh, I should just do like a collection of these fun little things. And as I started to write those, I was like, well, this just feels, to your point, like, okay, what is different than just talking about this on a podcast? Where is the there? And I just kind of started to push myself to go a little bit deeper, tell the story behind the story, go a little bit into places I was uncomfortable with, knowing that there was no one's going to read this if I didn't want them to read it. Right.
Well, that's a great way of putting it, because you're sharing, like, if you truly weren't comfortable with something in your gut, you would have known, well, that's not going in the book.
Right.
But there's that moment, and you tell me if this is how it was for you, where I just felt like if I'm going to do this, I'm going to just share the things that I could have never told anybody. I could have taken these things to the grave.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go the other way with them. And there's something very liberating about it. What is that initial response been? Because you're at the beginning of this. People are going to be reading this and saying, oh my God, this happened to me. I had my own version of this and that. Because you just, not to boil it down, you had a childhood that was very, there's a lot of chaos and a lot of,
look, for the lack of like adjectives, it's abuse. It was like this abusive stepfather who was in my life for this period of time. And really it was a daily occurrence, so much so that I think, you know, for part of it, it's like, I am a little cavalier about the way I talk about it, the way it was, because it wasn't special. It was like, oh, Taco Tuesday. It was just a part of the cycle of this house. And as a kid, you don't even understand the difference of that. But I think for me, it was something that I was wondering, like, why don't I talk about this? Like, why don't I tell these stories? And I realized to a certain extent, it was like, because my parents don't like to talk about this.
Well, that was a huge part of it for me. I feel there's a generational thing there.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm older than you, but you have a 4 hanging on your age.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And you talk to people in their 20s, and it's just like, they're just not hung up about things that happen to them. You just share it, and it's their truth and their experience. And there's not this inherited, oh, we don't talk about that.
Well, yeah.
As much as there was definitely for me, and it seems like for you as well, that just like that you need to be proper, and you don't share the underbelly of these things publicly.
And I don't even talk about this in the book, but my mom didn't even want me to acknowledge that she had married another man. Like, so in the telling of, oh, my mom married my dad, and then she got remarried to this other man 20 years later. And it's like, we just would excise this part out. And it was just simply because it looked bad to be married 3 times. Oh, right.
That's just like, what will other people think?
Exactly. And I started to realize now I have kids and I have my own life. And I'm like, and I'm holding a part of, in a way, and not to make it sound too grand, but like a part of my own story that is a part of me. Yeah. But I feel like I can't even share it because oh, what will literally just two people think?
Well, and the other thing is, it's like I had the same thing with family members. I was just like, oh no, because I wrote it, and suddenly I'm just like, oh wait, they are in this book also.
Right.
It's still I'm still the main character in it, but they are characters.
100%.
And there just had to be that moment where I was like, so here's the book. And you know, my sister was very generous with things and very supportive, but still was just like, gave me kind of her version of things. So I saw them through her eyes, which I had never seen before. Also, I just we had never talked about that, because again, it goes back to that thing where we don't talk about these things.
And there's a part of me that in the process of doing this, I didn't want to talk to them because I wanted to write it through my lens. And I also was very cognizant of saying, this is my story, not my parents' story. I'm not trying to tell their story. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze them. It's not a grudge fest. It's not a burn book. You know, they are characters here. There are things that are going on here, but they are, you know, you can say, well, I remember that you were drinking milk and you say you were drinking soda. It's like, well, those details, whatever. But the main crux of it is all there. And I didn't let my parents read the book until about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
When it was done, because there's a part of me where I was like, if I gave it to them when I could make edits, I felt like if they asked me to make an edit and I didn't do it, that would be, I wouldn't want to make an edit, because then it would be kind of going back to what I didn't want to do in the first place.
Sure,
so,
exactly. You're not a reckless person. You weren't trying to burn the family down with the book. The book is very respectful to your mom and to your dad, and so but it's run through that lens. Still, they are. I just felt like it's like my mother was not ready for this to be in a store.
Well, my biggest fear in doing this book wasn't about my mom or my dad, because I talked to my mom and they knew everything. There's nothing in this book that's going to shock them. Right. But I do worry about their friends, because old friend, then we're talking about that other generation and that other, what are they going to say at the dinner table, and what's going on? It's like that kind of stuff. But I went through on my final passes and really just tried to look at it through that lens too, and be like, how do I bridge that gap?
You pictured that thing where they're two of your mom's friends are just like, I read Paul's book.
Oh,
It's a lot. Like that whole thing is just like, but that's just a fantasy too. Also, you can let go of that, because everybody has their thing. That's the other part of it.
Yes.
It's not like, well, Paul, your family was the family that had problems.
Right.
It's just like, and that's the liberating part. And that was one of the best parts of the book for me, was people saying, I saw my experience, even though it was different than yours. I saw my experience through your experience. And it was nice to know that there was more of this going on than I knew at that point, because I felt the same way with it. It helped me just as much to hear people say, hey, I went through something you did. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Then this wasn't some 1 in a million story.
It's actually like really overwhelming. I'm in the very beginning parts of it now. Like more and more people are reading it before it comes out. And I'm having these like very not heavy conversations, but they're not like and I think what I'm surprised at is that I forget that kind of conversation can exist in a way, because we are in this world of like short form. No, I'm not best show, different long form conversation, but like we are kind of trapped in these moments where it's like, oh, we don't often go there, but it is the thing that kind of unites and binds us all. We all have our own weird things, and sometimes when people do share and go a little bit deeper, or go, for lack of a better term, dark or sad, it actually connects us more. And it's been really interesting to have these conversations that aren't just like, oh man, working in this movie was so much fun, and fish are dangerous, and we had a great time, and we had a lot of pranks on set.
That would have been the why am I blanking? It was the second one. It was.
Piranha 3 double D?
Yes.
Double D.
Piranha, yes.
Double D, not just 3D, double D.
Never more excited to see a movie than that movie.
I called you from set on that, and I believe that when I did call you, someone did tell the director. He was cold to me the next day.
Oh, that is like, Paul called. He was kind of having a little fun with our movie.
I mean, when you call your movie Piranha 3 double D,
yeah,
you're
welcoming. You should welcome a little bit of.
We know that this is not high art. This is not Megapolis or Megapolis, whatever it is.
Megalopolis. I just want to say the chat, this is a great conversation and really interesting to hear. Does Tom have jaundice? Somebody asks. This is the highs are higher than you think they'll be.
I did
the lows go lower.
They always will come. Like I was doing a show at Largo last week for the Netflix is a Joke Comedy Festival. Very small festival, very boutique. Just a couple people in town doing it, and wearing a rugby shirt that was red. People were like, nice Freddy Krueger sweater. I'm like, God damn it! Yeah. Like what? Really? Why? Why? And you know what I've been getting.
Well, was it a nice Freddy Krueger?
I mean, it was. It was exactly remade. I got it on Etsy. They sewed it, hand sewed it. The funniest thing that I've had with comments lately, I posted this thing on my show that I do with Rob Hubel. There was this Saturday Night Live opening where Rick Moranis comes out and he's like dancing to the SNL theme song, and then he like goes over and he starts like blowing into the saxophone. Then he goes and delivers a baby, starts directing the show, and it's this whole big thing. And I always thought that was really funny. Yeah. And someone had pointed out that it was the week following Bruce Willis coming out on stage and jamming with the band.
Okay, so
it was goofing on Bruce Willis. Yeah. And I was like, this is the funniest like kind of F you, because like Bruce Willis like doesn't do a monologue. He just comes out and he's like, hey, and he's this cool man playing, his blues. And by the way, I bought that blues album. I was a Return of Bruno fan.
Return of Bruno.
I thought Bruce Willis wrote Under the Boardwalk because as a kid, I was like, yes, this is And
this album sucks. Oh yeah? Can you write a song as good as Under the Boardwalk? It's like, news to the young Paul Scheer. No. He couldn't either.
Yeah, he could not. And so like I'd written this thing. I was like, oh, this is like such a funny kind of like F you to that kind of cocky, because it's not cool. It's like SNL isn't a place to be cool, or like whatever. Yeah. And people are like, Rick Moranis, no, this is not an F you. That like people get so upset that Rick like it's not. It's a coincidence. It's a joke. It's a this. It's a this. And I've now gone in this deep dive where everyone is trying to tell me that I am wrong. This is not. It's like, well, it's the week after. Yeah. Clearly was the SNL writers. Everyone's like, it would be funny if you one up this thing. And everyone's like, no, Rick Moranis doesn't have a mean bone in his body. And these comments have been going on non-stop. And then I finally found this clip of Rick Moranis cutting down George Carlin. Like he did
I was literally going to say George Carlin. I was going to say he doesn't have a mean bone in his body. I was like, check his George Carlin impression out.
Yeah, and this is like the impression that kind of the impression that kind of like
it forced George Carlin questioned his entire professional existence after Rick Moranis was kind of just like, beans. What are beans?
And it's like, it's so funny that like, just because he was a nerdy character in like Parenthood or Honey, I Shrunk the
Kids. He's not
like,
Lewis he's a professional comedian.
Who's hosting SNL and going like, oh yeah, this asshole who came on here was like jamming out, playing his R&B blues music. Like I'm going to like make fun of it.
You can ask yourself, if you were one of the people questioning whether it was a reference to it, ask yourself, how many times in the history of this show that has been on since the beginning of time have you seen a host come out and jam with the band before doing their monologue? Oh, 2 times? Well, just check the dates on those. They were 2 weeks. They were within 7 days of each other?
Yeah.
I think that might be and the other one who did it is a complete wise ass from SCTV,
and like went from directing, like went from playing with the band to directing the show in the camera.
It's like
got it.
And also, I would say to the guy who said I had jaundice, I was I was sick a couple months ago, and I'm still. Do you want me to drop dead? Is that what you? Or you want me to not do the show?
And you look to me like you have some
Should I?
sun.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
I don't think you look
Appreciate
like jaundice.
it.
Is
There's a couple
sick...
spots. There's a couple spots, and don't worry,
All
I'm
right.
gonna go.
Okay. All right. Well, you look healthy to me.
I appreciate
when
that.
you
I
walked
just,
out there,
Mhm.
I was like, wow, Tom's looking good.
See, a global geek, whatever your name is, global glorp.